Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskara to all. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Shubhodaya. A warm welcome to everyone to the 8th day of the 4th edition of the Global Festival of Oneness. This is a month-long festival on Adi Shankaracharya Bhagavadpada, covering various aspects and topics of Advaita Vedanta by Indica Moksha. This is your host Soumya today. Today I also have the privilege of introducing my guru, the speaker, Swami Brahmavidananda Saraswati ji, and he will be speaking on Doctrine of Alata Shanti. We are very blessed by your presence and my humble pranams to you, Swamiji. Swami Brahmavidananda Saraswati ji is a traditional and contemporary teacher of Vedanta. He, having lived his life as a sadhu for more than 30 years, he has facilitated the growth of many students in different parts of the country. I also happen to be studying Vedanta under him. Formerly a marine engineer, Swamiji as a youth was inspired by Swami Chinmayananda Saraswati ji and studied Vedanta under Dayanand Saraswati ji in Sandipani in Mumbai in 1976 to 1978. Later, he spent 7 years at Rishikesh in the Himalayas doing advanced studies in Vedanta under various traditional teachers such as Swami Tarananda Giri ji and Swami Harihara Tirtha ji and others. Since 1985, he has been based in Mumbai, unfolding the vision of Vedanta in his regular classes. Swamiji conducts programs for private and public sector companies, including some multinational and Fortune 500 companies. His corporate programs include personal spiritual coaching and workshops on Indian ethos in management, personal empowerment, and other human resource development issues based on a contemporary and pragmatic understanding of universal spiritual principles. Many companies are testimonial to the powerful personal transformation that take place in people who attend these programs. Unassuming and pragmatic, Swamiji effortlessly facilitates participants to maximize the potential in all areas of their lives. And he is an amazing teacher. Over to you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Soumya. Since you already said the prayer, I'll start straight away. The topic is the doctrine of Alata Shanti. At the risk of sounding critical, I'm going to make a few comments on the title. When you say a doctrine, it looks as though you're presenting a philosophy of itself. Then I'll have to say doctrine of Alata Shanti in Mandukya Karika. The doctrine of creation in Taittiriya. They're not doctrines. They are prakriyas. The closest translation you can get for a prakriya is a paradigm. Therefore, different Upanishads use different paradigms to explain Advaitam. Okay. As someone said, Upayaha te avataraya. Their upayas, means used for the sake of understanding. Why? Because the pramana is the Veda, the Upanishads. There is no other pramana. But this pramana has to be understood by a human mind. If it has to be understood by a human mind, you need a logical presentation, a logical explanation. If you're using a logical explanation, you have to use a paradigm. And that is exactly what Gaudapada, Sri Gaudapada does in his Karika. Remember, Alata Shanti is the fourth pada of the Karika. It starts by the Agama Prakriya. The first section deals with the Pramana, because for Advaita Siddhi, is the Pramana that's important. And the Pramana is the Veda, the Upanishad. Therefore, Mandukya Upanishad and the explanation using the analogy of waking dream and deep sleep is the first pada. And this analogy of waking dream and deep sleep, he keeps right through. Now, whatever is presented, if there is an apparent contradiction between whatever is presented, whichever school of philosophy it is, or whichever discipline of knowledge it is, including science, if there is an apparent contradiction between that and your experiences, that has to be explained away. Therefore, we have the Vaitatya Prakaranam, the second section, where the Mithyatum of the world he establishes not independently with Tarka alone, but Shruti Anukula Tarka. Then the next section will be Advaita Siddhi. Once the Mithyatum of the world is established, then Advaita Siddhi follows, because Advaita has already been established in the first section. That is reinforced in the Advaita Prakarana. Then we come to Alata Shanti. Now, there are many mistaken notions about Alata Shanti. They say, oh, it's meditation. The mind, as long as the mind is functional, you have perception of duality. Therefore, quieten the mind. Too simplistic. Too simplistic. Because it is not perception of duality that creates a problem. Advaita Siddhi is in spite of Dvaita Pratiti. You see a million waves in the ocean, but there is only one water. So the perception of a million waves does not negate the oneness of the water that is there. Therefore, it is not Dvaita Pratiti because your mind is active. That's a problem. In fact, if you talk about a Sampradaya with presenting Vedanta, you will say meditation, Nidithyasana, is meant for the Mandamandima Adhikaris. The Uttama Adhikari gains it in Shravanam itself. It doesn't require Nidithyasana. Of course, if you look at it academically, then you will say, oh, that is a Vivarna school, not the Bhavati school. In fact, the way Bhagavadpada presents it, Manaspandanam is not just mind thinking, it is a mind conceptualizing. You're conceptualizing reality in various forms. And he starts the Alata Shanti Prakaranam by saying, when you conceptualize, your differences from other people who conceptualize. If the reality is one, and you are having a concept about it, a concept is only from a unidimensional viewpoint. Therefore, there will be other viewpoint from other dimensions, other perceptions. So you'll have Tarka, Sankhya, Bauddha, Jaina. You'll have so many schools. All schools of thought, all conceptualization. If you miss the one, you can have many conceptualization. And if you are committed to a concept, then naturally you'll have some raga for it. And if you are raga for it, there will be some dvesha with respect to the other concepts. That is why he says all of them will dispute with each other. All the people who conceptualize will have to dispute. Because the language of debate and discussions was a language of philosophy and spirituality in India. And we took our debates and discussions very seriously. It is not that you present a paper and you say what you want, somebody else presents a paper which is opposite in nature, and you say everything is fine. No. What is it that you're committing to? That is fine for a conference. That's fine for a professor who is taking a job, taking it as a job, and therefore he has to present, and you present opposite viewpoints, and you're all comfortable with each other. In India, debate and discussions were committed things. You put your life on the line. You put your mouth where your money is, or you put your money where your mouth is. If I lose a debate, I'm willing to be your student. That's how it went. That means I'm willing to give up my thinking and study what your idea is. Therefore, when people conceptualize, there is a natural commitment to it and a natural conflict with other conceptions. And Gaudapada says, we don't have to bother. The various concepts and their disputes negate each other. He says that right in the beginning. They negate each other. In fact, Shankara introducing it says that. They negate each other. So after that, what is left behind will be only Advaita. It's a very powerful idea that Shankara says in his Sambandha Bhashya with respect to this section. That the disputants will negate each other, what will be left is Advaita. Because he says we don't have Raga Dvesha because ours is not a concept. We are accepting a fact about what is there. Therefore, we don't even have to dispute with anything else because they are speaking from a standpoint. From that standpoint, it's acceptable. There is a world. It is, if you give a modern example, oh, I'm a quantum physicist. That doesn't mean I don't accept Newtonian physics. In the sense, in quantum physics, a particle can choose its pathway. To put it in very simple terms. Therefore, there is a storm raging and I'm standing under a coconut tree, coconuts are falling. I'm not going to stand there and say, particles choose themselves. The coconut will choose a path that will not hit me. I'll be absolutely foolish. Just because I'm a quantum physicist doesn't mean I don't accept gravity. Similarly, in Vyavahara, we'll accept some of the concepts. It's okay. What's the problem? After this talk, I'm going to have a breakfast. But eating is mithya. Of course, it is mithya. Hunger is also mithya. So, no problems. So, if this is it, what is left behind will be Advaita at the end of the whole thing. The very powerful statement he makes, because in post-Shankara Vedanta, there is a book called Khandana Khandana by Sri Harshavardhan, a phenomenally logical book. I've been looking for a long time for someone who can teach it. Difficult to get students who will teach, who will learn that. But there he says, in a nutshell, whatever you present logically, I can negate. Whatever I present logically, you can negate. At the end of all the negation, what will be left behind? That which cannot be negated, Advaitam Sat, Atma will be left behind. Because that's the only thing that cannot be negated. That's the one that goes about negating all other schools of thought. So what is left behind is only the Atma. Now this idea is developed there much later, but the seeds of it is right here. Then going forward in Alata Shanti, of course, keeping the paradigm of waking, dream, and deep sleep. Karya Karana is a paradigm that is used everywhere. But if Karya Karana is taken as real, then Advaita Siddhi is not possible. Therefore, he spends a lot of verses from various standpoints negating Karya Karana. This is a traditional Vedantic stand. You accept cause and effect from the standpoint of functioning. Then when you come to understanding Vedanta, you negate cause and effect. Karya Karana is negated as mithya. He does it with various examples. One example he picks up is something that is existent before that is born, created, or a non-existent entity is created. Use it with an example. When a potter makes a pot out of clay, is he creating an existing pot or a non-existing pot? If the pot was existing before, he need not create. If the pot was non-existing before, he cannot create. Simple. In the sense, if it is a non-existing pot, why do you need clay? I'll give you some paper. Make a pot out of paper. You can make a pot, but it can't carry water. Why? The potential for a pot is not there in the clay. It's not there in the paper. It's only there in the clay. That means you're saying the pot existed in the clay and you're only manifesting it. Therefore, if the pot existed in the clay and you're manifesting it, there's no real creation. Because all that is there is clay. Whatever you call as creation is only Nama. It's only a concept. It's only a projection. Therefore, what Alata Shanti really does is negate your conceptualization. In fact, all of Vedanta is about negating conceptualization so you can understand the non-conceptual reality, Nirgunam Brahman. The whole purpose is that. So Alata Shanti now negates Karya Karana from a standpoint that there is only the reality that is manifesting. There is no real creation. What he had proved earlier as Mithya, he is bringing it back here. In fact, you'll find some of the verses are repeated in the Alata Shanti Prakarana. Because of this, because he wants to drive home the point, it is a conceptualization that is there, not just the activity of the mind. It is not just manas. When he says manas pandanam, people say the vibrating mind. It is a conceptualization that creates this. How you spin concepts out of it. Similarly, it takes a Bijankura Nyaya. Which came first? The seed or the sprout? The Bija or the Ankura? Let us say it is a simple, a rose plant. Does this plant rose, or if you want to better example, let us say mango season now. Mango seed. Mango season has just started, so let me use something contemporary. The mango tree came from the mango seed, but the mango seed came from the mango tree. Which came first? The seed or the tree? If you cannot say which came first, how can you show which is cause, which is effect? You can only say this tree has come from this seed. You can't say anything more than that. I planted a seed, and from that seed, this sprout has come. But that seed, where did it came from? From a previous mango tree. And where did that tree come from? Previous. So which is first? Science and the theory of evolution will step in with something which sounds almost funny. He will say the mango tree came from a seed which was non-mango. Because evolution. And where did that come from? From a non-mango tree. Then how did the non-mango tree produce a mango seed? I don't know how somehow it happened. Which you can cover up nicely by saying, oh, that's a process of evolution. Of ignorance. I mean, I accept a lot of science for Vyavahara. In fact, this conference would not be possible without a lot of science. But that doesn't mean everything it says is true from the standpoint of reality. So, like this, Bijangura Nyayena, he dismisses cause effect. Dismisses meaning what? Shows the mithyatvam of cause effect. Because conceptualization is the human mind. And there is a tendency to bring in that conceptualization to Vedanta as well. Why? Because we are conceptual, as a human being, we are conceptual thinkers. It's important to understand this process. We are conceptual thinkers. A human being is a conceptual thinker. Everything that you studied in life was studied as part of conceptualization. Without conceptualization, there is no study. Where is any study? When you say book, this book is a concept. What is there is nothing but paper. So book is a concept, table is a concept, everything is a concept. So this conceptualization is what is talking about manaspandanam. So the example he uses, of course, is naturally Alata, a firebrand. I'm afraid there'll be many youngsters who have not seen a firebrand. A firebrand is something that in the villages was used as a torch. You will tie a bunch of dried coconut leaves, set it to light, and that'll become a torch. That's the only torch that you have when you're going in the dark. And if you wave it around, as children used to do that, you'll get various figures. Nowadays, they do it with sparklers for Diwali. Another generation, they'll wonder what is sparklers. Anyway, so it creates various forms. Therefore, stop that waving around. There's no more forms. Now, remember, an example, you can't take it literally. That example is about conceptualization, not mere mind functioning. Why is an example? It'll have its limitations. Then why didn't you use a perfect example? There is no perfect example. Why? Because an example, an upama, is not the pramana for Advaita. The pramana happens to be Shabda, not upamana, much less Tarka, Nyaya, or Anuman. Therefore, since that is not the pramana, you will not get a perfect example. Therefore, the examples will be limited. And therefore, he says, this manaspandanam, this conceptualization that is there with respect to I and the world, both of them. The conceptualization that I am a talking, walking, functioning entity, and that is the reality. That is the only reality. That's the conceptualization. The world of names and forms that I see, that is real, that is the conceptualization. It is stopping. That is called Alata Shanti. But the tragedy is, in an academic study, you bring conceptualization into Vedanta. Are you saying there is no Nididhyasanam, there is no this? Of course it is there. Of course it is there. To own up the truth, most of us require Nididhyasanam. That's a different thing. But this conceptualization, as far as the world is concerned, as far as the reality is concerned, and a lot of time he uses the example of waking dream and deep sleep. How in deep sleep there is no conceptualization because there is no functioning of the mind. Therefore, you have an ignorant anubhava of Advaita, ignorant experience of it. Whereas in waking and dream, you have Advaita. It's easy to say, oh, like a dream, like a dream, like a dream. The argument there is Drishyatva. The dream is visible, seen by you, therefore Mithya. And he establishes in the Vaiditya Prakarana about the unreality of the dream. And then he extends it to the world with the argument of Drishyatva. Dream is Mithya, already established. Then dream is Drishyam. Drishyatvad Mithya. Then he brings it to the same to the Vyavaharika world and says waking world and says Drishyatvad Mithya. Yatha Swapna. Therefore, when you come back to Alata Shanti, you have to get back to this idea of it being the conceptualization, the constructs that you have, the mental constructs, they are giving reality to a concept and getting stuck in that concept. By seeing the Mithyatvam. That is called, he goes on to say what type, how much, what type of negation, etc. is there. So it is the negation of concepts that become important. He is a negation of the world. The world is going to survive you out. You can negate the world until you start feeling hungry. Or you start feeling the need for a cup of coffee. But negation is giving it the reality. We give experience too much of reality. If one thing the Alata Shanti Prakaranam and Mandukya Karika as a whole says, whole does, is it negates the reality of experiences. And in the modern life especially, I'm sure it was there at all times, but in the modern world even more so, experience becomes reality. And that is what he negates by saying all experiences are conceptualization, manaspandanam, therefore Mithya. But we tend to say experience is fact and we want to bring Vedanta as an experience. Doesn't work. Experience are about the functioning world. And experience does not prove reality. We walk on a flat earth all the time. The earth is not flat. We know that. We enjoy a rising sun or a setting sun. We know it neither rises nor sets. Therefore, the experience of something does not prove its reality. Therefore, again, Alata Shanti is concerned with negating the reality that you are given to your experiences by saying all that experience are only manaspandana. The reality that you give it is manaspandana. That is the conceptualization. That are the names and forms, that reality that you are given to it. That is the problem. There is no other problem. If you negate that, the reality that you give to your experience, then no experience is an issue. No experience will stand against Advaita Siddhi. You can enjoy all the experiences. In fact, he goes on to say, after that, what is there? There's all that is there is only Ananda, Advaitam. There is a problem of any experience. Really, there is an experience a problem. I give reality to it, that's a problem. And then I've seen some people want to present Vedanta as another experience. And present Turiya as another state of experience. When Alata Shanti takes place, you will be in Turiya state. Narayana. Then I'll have to present the Atma is Panchama, not Turiya. Shantam Shivam Advaitam say Ekaha. He says that. Say Ekaha, it's one alone. The three are appearances, one is the real. Therefore, really speaking, the Turiya is there in waking. Waking is Turiya is. Dream is Turiya is. Deep sleep is Turiya is. Negate all the three. Turiya still is, because Turiya is Atma Swarupa. To understand that Atma Swarupa, all this is Upaya. Not doctrines. Upaya sarve vete. For Advaita Buddhi Vataraya. For you to understand Advaita Buddhi, there are upayas. And have various upayas. And once the avatara, once you understood Advaita, made it a fact of your life, there is a problem of experiences. As we say in Rishikesh, Duniya ka khel dekho. Rishikesh, that there's a nice, among the sadhus, these are the expressions. Duniya ka khel mein maja aata hai. See the fun. What Duniya ka khel? Swami is such a problem. I'm going through relationship issues, work issues, this, that. How much reality are you giving it? Function. Functional. That's spandanam. Manaspandanam, giving it reality. That's create the issue. If you don't take it like that, then you'll have to say, Sabko thodo, Rishikesh bhag jao. Don't worry. And Rishikesh, you'll do other types of spandana. In fact, today, if you go to Rishikesh, there'll be a lot of yoga spandanam happening. A lot of river rafting spandanam happening. And right now it's summer. Too hot spandanam happening. You go in winter, too cold spandanam. Why? You give reality to all this. It's hot, it is hot, it is cold, it is cold. Experiences. Vyavahara dashayam, experiences. Don't give it reality. Then there is no manaspandanam. Don't think that manaspandanam is only cessation of thought. If Advaita Siddhi depends upon cessation of thought, you have a nightmare in your mind. Every time you open your eyes, you have a problem. And how long are you going to sit in Samadhi? Tell me. The prarabdha will force you to come out. The prarabdha of the mind and body will force you to come into the world. Therefore, Advaita Siddhi is dropping the spandanam of the Alata, spandanam of the mind, conceptualization, giving it reality. And once you do that, all there is Ananda. If Advaita is there, means what? Ananda is there. Therefore, Advaita Siddhi, that is the purpose of Alata Shanti. He makes another statement here, which is very, very important, because as part of it, yes, since so much of verses he has given in terms of saying that it is only mind spandanam that is creating the world. Spandanam of the mind. Creating the world meaning giving reality to what you see. That is it. And therefore, it is that Shanti that is necessary. Alata Shanti. Cessation of the conceptualization. Giving reality to that is what is necessary. He is aware of the fact he may be mistaken for a Buddha, Bauddha, and presenting subjectivism. Therefore, he makes a very important statement. Etat na buddhena bhashitam. He says that. Etat na buddhena bhashitam. This is not what was talked about by Buddha. This is Vedanta. He doesn't say Buddha, he says Bauddha. That followers of Buddha. Because Buddha didn't present a Shunyavada. Shunyavada was presented by Nagarjuna 500 years after Buddha's time. But it came to be known as Buddhism. Buddha was taken as one of the teachers. There's so many teachers. Buddha is one of them. No big deal. But for socio-political conceptualization, again, reasons to put Buddhism as a school, Buddhism as a school by the followers of Buddha, Bauddhaha. And he makes it very clear this is not Bauddhena Bhashitam. Important to understand that aspect as well in the larger context of Vedanta. Why? Because remember, we don't have doctrines. We only have paradigms for you to understand. Our pramana is the Upanishads. Ekam Satyam. That's it. And if that is it, then for your understanding, we will use many paradigms. We will use many arguments. We will borrow arguments from Tarka. We will borrow arguments from Sankhya. We will borrow arguments from Buddha. That doesn't mean I'm validating the Buddha's argument that reality is Shunya. No. I'm just using an argument. Like just in this talk, I use an argument from science. I'm not presenting Vedanta as scientific. That's foolishness. People do it, but that is foolishness. And I'm willing to debate anybody who says that Vedanta is scientific. Why? For the simple reason that science depends upon the 5 pramanas, not on Shabda. Therefore, if you say Vedanta is scientific, you're saying Vedanta depends on the 5 pramanas, not Shabda pramana. There itself, you're doing a great disservice to Vedanta by saying it is scientific. Some modern scholars use that. I also use arguments from science. That doesn't mean Vedanta is scientific. We're borrowing some arguments from science for the mithyatvam of the world. We are not borrowing arguments from science to prove Advaita Satyam, Atma Satyam. We are using it to prove the mithyatvam of the world. Why? Last year's Nobel Prize in physics went to 2 people who proved the world is mithya. Scientifically, they know the big deal about that. Oh, so now Vedanta is scientific? Foolishness. Similarly, say Bhagavadpada is a Bauddha. Foolish. He was not. Though there are in scholarly circles accusations of that. Forgetting that he himself has very clearly said, Etat na Bauddhena Bhashitam. It's important. That part to understand is also equally important. Because a Vedantin does not really speaking, it is not a system. whether it is Mandukya with this particular Alata Shanti Prakarna or any other Upanishad. There's only one reality that is being presented. Advaitam Satyam. That's it. You have different paradigms to explain that. Depending upon the level of what is current in the society. Today, what is current is science, not Tarka. Therefore, we will use a lot of science. Because that is current knowledge. Generally, physics. But believe me, there's a new discipline of knowledge that's already coming in mainstream called biocentrism. Keeping biology at the center in the pursuit of truth, because the study of consciousness comes into the picture. Therefore, tomorrow I will use arguments from that to prove Mithyatam of the world and how biocentrism is not going to arrive at the truth, because they are speaking only of manifested consciousness, not the consciousness which is behind the manifestation. Similarly here, just because he has used arguments from Buddha doesn't make Gaudapada a Buddha. I can go on, okay? The idea is what? At the end of the whole thing, what is left behind is only you. You created all these concepts, Manaspandanam, you negated all that concepts with the help of the teaching. And what is left behind? Shanti. And that Shanti is there in spite of concept. The Shanti is not absence of concepts. Like a child may take the waving of the sparklers as different forms, not the adult who knows there's only one point of light. Similarly, when you see Advaitam Satyam, you see the Mithyatam of all concepts. And when you see the Mithyatam of all concepts, in Vyavahara, you can use any concept you want. And you need to use concepts of a flat earth, of feeling hungry, hunger, thirst, etc. All that you need to use. Doesn't create a problem. Doesn't create a problem at all. That is Jivan Mukti Avastha. He indicates that in many places in the Alata Shanti Prakarna. That if all that is there is Advaitam, all that is there is only Anand. If you know the Satyam, the Mithya world is remains as Mithya, not an issue. If you understand that, you don't even need Samadhi experience. If you understand it enough to be a fact of your life, you don't even need an experience of Samadhi. Experience of Samadhi helps if it is Jnana Samadhi, not Andha Samadhi. That's absolute cessation, Alata Shanti. How many of us have really gone into outer space to see the round earth? You only see maximum photographs on the TV or in your maps. But even before that, you knew earth is round. We are walking on a flat earth, but the earth is round. The flat earth is Mithya, you knew that. However useful it is. Similarly, in Vedanta also, once you know the truth, Manaspandanam is not an issue because there is no real Spandanam, it's Mithya. The Mithyatva Nishchaya has taken place. Advaita is understood. What's the problem then? There is no issue at all. All that is there is Anand. Now, I cut across a huge topic in a very brief amount of time. Are there any questions?
Swamiji, right now, there aren't any questions as of now.
Okay.
You still have another 10 more minutes.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like me to elaborate on? You or Nitin would like me to elaborate? I know I'm putting you on a spot.
I think you can explain a little bit on more manaspandanam, that word.
Yeah. Okay. As far as this manaspandanam is concerned, in meditations and Nididhyasana is concerned, he also makes another point. There is a mistaken notion that traditional Vedanta does not give importance to psychology, and psychology is a modern construct. That is another issue. Because he talks about in Nididhyasana, he categorizes some of the 4 problems that can come up. The first one is Vikshepa, your mind is distracted. Common experience for everyone. Now, why are you distracted? Again, because of Spandanam. You are projecting into various things. And you're giving it a reality. Only then you're distracted. Otherwise, you're not distracted. Another one is Laya, sleep. This is a very common problem in today's world because all of us are sleep deprived. Thanks to the TV and things like that, and your social media and Facebook and whatever. Yeah, that eats up into your time of sleep. Therefore, you don't get that minimum 6, 7 hours of sleep. And therefore, when you sit in meditation, you continue your sleep in meditation. Absence of Swantanam, actually, this. But absence of Swantanam doesn't help in this manner because presence of ignorance is there. Laya. Therefore, he says, Laye Sambodhe Chittam. But the third one is what I'm really interested in. Rasa, this thing, the idea of Kashaya. What is Kashaya? Conscious issues. The issues of grief, guilt, etc., that you are pushed into your subconscious. When you quieten your conscious mind in meditation, the conscious Spandanam is quietened. Then what happens? Subconscious things will be thrown up. All those are also Spandanam based on your past experiences. Past experiences are only memory based, but those memories have become such strong concepts, such strong constructs, they bog you down. They bog the seeker down. Who's the seeker? Adhyasavan Purusha. Adhyasavan Purusha is the seeker. The ignorant person is the seeker. So that ignorant person who takes the mind and body as himself, that person is bogged down by your psychological issues. All these are psychological issues. And he says that, let it come up and you deal with it. You deal with it means you and your guru will deal with it. Who else will deal with it? Because it has become now something that you are bogged down in. You know, that's also Spandanam only. What else is it? I was very hurt. So when the teacher is saying you are Ananda, that is coming filtered through that hurt. Your mind is understanding of Ananda, but you don't feel it. Why? Your heart is full of pain. Another type of Spandanam this is. Mental construct. Therefore, that also has to be dealt with. By saying you are Ananda, it won't help. You are saying teaching won't help. Teaching is meant for an adhikari. Samadama, that is adhikaritvam here. If that is not there, how will Vedanta work? Vedanta will work for an adhikari. He makes it very clear right at the beginning. In Sutra Bhashya also, Asa Shankara both make it clear. Athato Brahma Jignasa. The first word Atha is sadhana, chatushta, sampanna, anantara. Therefore, if there is a lot of hurt, pain, guilt, etc. in your mind, how is it going to work? There's another type of spandana. Spandanam that has gone into your subconscious and holding you tight. Deal with it. Saying you are Ananda is not enough. You have to process it. That processing is called sama. That processing is called sama. I mean, we are too used to saying, mastery of the mind is sama, mastery of the mind is mano nigraha, mano nigraha, mano nigraha. What is mano nigraha? Look into the dark corners of your mind and deal with that. Now that has to be done from the standpoint of vyavahara. It is not done from with the knowledge of the truth. You can do it easier, but the knowledge of the truth is not sunk in into you. It cannot sink into you because the block of this is there. So there's another type of spandana. Has to be dealt with. Another type of spandana he handles is rasa swad in meditation. You sit in meditation and say, people come and tell me. Especially, there is a whole group of yoga teachers where I stay, whom I interact with off and on. He has sat in meditation. He said, what a peaceful experience I have. So blissful. That's called rasa swadana. He says, pragyaya nisango bhave. We detached the whole thing. Why? The teaching is you are Ananda, not you are experiencing Ananda. You are experiencing Ananda is not the thing. Oh, there are some questions come up. If Alata Shanti is about negating Manaspandanam, what is being established? The Siddhanta that is established after negation. A negation itself can't be constituted as Siddhanta. Correct. Negation is not Siddhanta. Negation is of Spandanam. What remains, which is explained by the Pramana, that is the Siddhanta.
Yeah. The second question is, how can a normal person separate Satya from Mithyam? Difference is very complex, create conflict in the understanding, can create conflict in understanding.
It can create some concepts. So that's okay. The conflict comes because we think that Mithya has to be completely removed. You don't remove the Mithya of the flat earth. You don't remove the Mithya of the flat earth to understand Satyam. You don't understand, you don't negate at all. You don't really have to negate anything. You have to only negate the reality that you are given it. If you negate the reality, that's enough.
So the next question is, can it be construed that we be responsive rather than reactive, so as to be in the state of negation of spandana without negation of thought?
In fact, the negation of spandana involves a lot of thought. Because if you are not negating, you are negating, as I said, the mental construct. Spandana, I said, was the conceptualization. To negate conceptualization, you need thoughts. If you don't have thoughts, how are you going to negate? So, it is with the negation that you are going about it. That with the thought you are going about negating the whole thing, not without that. Not without that.
The next comment is like, thank you very much for your erudite talk. Are there right and wrong ways of conceptualization? Right means which takes us near to the right knowledge, understanding. Wrong is which takes us away from this understanding.
Fair enough. So go along with what you understood from Vedanta. And if you want to put that as right, fine. But remember, in functioning, there is also dharma coming into the picture. So those things also has to be kept because that's vyavahar. So with the understanding of Vedanta in your mind, we live a vyavaharika life. So we live in Ananda all the time.
Okay. The next question is on prarabdha. Also, relationship with experiences. Will aging naturally cause detachment, realizing the uselessness of experiences?
Yeah. Which experience is Satyam? You think relationship is Satyam? How many relationships have you gone through? You understand it is not Satyam, it is Mithya. Even if you say for 7 generations you're going to be married, how boring. Even then, it is only 7. Thank God, not eternity. All experiences are Mithya. Any experience is Mithya. Including you listening to me, okay? Shankara says that in the Adhyasa Bhasha, Yam Adhyasam Puraskritya Sarve Pramana Prameya Vyavahara. All your functioning, Pramana functioning, is based on Adhyasa, this mistaken notion about yourself, this Spandanam. And he goes on to say, not only Laukika, Vedika, worldly activities, spiritual activities, Vedic activities. And in Vedic activities, Vidhi Pratisheda, Moksha Paranicha. That and a seeker is a Spandana.
Okay.
The very seeking is the denial of the sought. But without seeking, you can't remain. And the teaching is also a Spandana. Only thing is the teacher knows it's Mithya. So no problems. Therefore, he can say, Tattvam Sishya Naham Guru. Like in Alata Shanti, he concludes by saying, there is no bondage, there is no freedom. This is the Paramartha Satya. Yes, Swami. Anything else?
Yes, sir. Yes, Swamiji. He says brilliant talk. And then the question is, when Brahman is Gunatita, how even a projection of universe can take place? And then to say it is due to ignorance is strange, as initially when there was only Brahman, and how did even Spandana arise?
Brahman doesn't have any Spandana. It is like saying the sun is covered by the cloud. Really? The cloud is seen in the light of the sun. But your vision, an individual vision, is covered. Similarly, the individual does the Spandana. Individual does the Spandana.
Another question is, kindly elaborate on the prarabdha of the body and mind.
Okay. Prarabdha is nothing but the result of your past karmas. There is nothing to elaborate. Whatever comes to you unasked, he is prarabdha. Your height, weight, etc., prarabdha. Like some of us have that problem, prarabdha. Our weight is also prarabdha. Why? I don't have to eat food to put on weight. I only have to look at food to put on weight. Prarabdha. That you're genetically meant to be heavy. Now what to do? You can keep yourself healthy. So these are part of the prarabdha. It's a very elaborate thing to go into when you're dealing with Alata Shanti. Okay.
Next question is, why Vedanta is not scientific? How can we understand efforts of scientific spirituality?
I'm sorry. Okay. Quickly go over it. Science is about observation, generalization, and replication in a lab setting. Broadly, this will be applicable to all scientific processes. First, you have to observe. Atma is not a subject of your observation. Atma is not available for observation. The first step itself is negated. Second, generalization. There is only one Atma in the whole universe. Therefore, you can't generalize. You cannot replicate the Atma anywhere else. Therefore, not scientific. Is it by generally what people mean by saying scientific, etc.? You need some logical explanations. We will give a lot of logical explanation, much more than science can give. Logical explanation is one thing. And that is why in olden days we used to say it is not nahi tarkena matana apniya. By mere logic you can't get it. Shabda is a pramana, which has to be logically understood. So if you want to use arguments from science to understand it, that is fine. But that doesn't make Vedanta scientific. Exactly like how, because Bhagavadpada used arguments from Buddhism, doesn't make him a Buddhist. Or Vedanta is Buddhism. No, it is not. Similarly, Vedanta is not scientific. Just because a few arguments can be used. If you want to make Vedanta scientific, that means your Shraddha is in science, not in Vedanta. That means you have not understood Pramanas properly. Therefore, study Pramanas. Understand what the different Pramanas are, what they are meant for. And understand the fact that a Pramana has to be Abhaditam and Anadilgatam Jnanam. Not Anadigatam meaning not gained any other Pramana. Only then Shabda becomes a Pramana. So the whole question of epistemology in Vedanta, that has to be clear. If that is clear, you will very clearly say, yes, Vedanta is not scientific. Though I can use scientific arguments in Vedanta. The big difference between the two.
Thank you, Swami. The another question is there a distinction that is drawn when it is said that Buddhena and Bauddhena? It is not that both the terms refer to the same idea of the reality is achieved by Buddhi and within Buddhi, which again brings us to the reality, to the realm of Manaspandana. This is exactly what Bhagavadpada Gaudacharya is negating through Alata Shanti. It is baffling that he is accused of being a Buddhist in disguise.
True, but it is there and he himself anticipated it. Therefore, he said it is not Bauddhena. Because Buddha never talked about the Atma. Buddha never talked about the Atma. In all his, whatever is available, he has not talked about the Atma. He only talked about the eightfold path, which is from the 6th chapter of the Gita, Yukta Ahara Viharasya, etc. So he talked about simple things. He talked about living a meditative life. A meditative life so that you get a contemplative mind. He only talked about that. And the writings of Buddhism, as I said, is by Nagarjuna 500 years later. That is what is known as Buddhism today. That's why we make a distinction. Because Buddha is respected. He's called Sugataha. Sushtu Gatam Jnanam Yasya, whose knowledge is beautiful. Tat Agataha, one who has understood that reality. Tat Agatenaya. So, Buddha is respected. But what goes in the name of Buddhism, we can't accept that. We can accept a Buddhist, okay? I have a lot of Buddhist friends. That's not a problem. In fact, I have interacted with a lot of Buddhists also. And the modern Buddhists, especially those who are into Zen, etc., accept the fact that Shunya is not Shunya, cannot be Shunya. So they will call it as non-conceptual reality, which is a term that we use for common understanding. It's not that I invented that term. It's a modern translation of Nirgunam Brahma. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji, for that patiently answering all the questions and for the brilliant talk. With lack of time, we will not be taking more questions. I think some people have asked for your email ID. I think Nitinji can share your email ID with them. Or
yeah. Nitin has arshvidya@gmail.com.
Yes.
And yeah, okay. I will, whatever I can answer. I'm not a very much of a net person or technology person, but whatever I can do, I will do.
Sure. Thank you, Swamiji, for that.
Thank you. Oh, that's
yeah. See you all again in the evening. The today's evening talk at 7 p.m. is Shankaracharya and Vallabhacharya, Where They Converge, by Maitri Goswami. Thank you again.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you all. Take care. Take care, Soumya. Nice to see you.
Same here, sir.